Hello and welcome to the British Chamber of Commerce Singapore's podcast channel. With over 20,000 downloads since our launch, we're thrilled to present Season 5 of in-depth discussions on business, global affairs and news across Singapore, ASEAN and the United Kingdom. Thank you for your continued support and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, welcome to our British Chamber of Commerce Tech Committee podcast. Today we're delving into insights from WaveStone, a global management consultancy firm renowned for its expertise in strategic transformation and digital innovation. With over 5,500 consultants across 15 countries, WaveStone is at the forefront of helping organizations navigate the complexities of AI, cybersecurity, and digital strategy. In this episode, we'll be discussing findings from WaveStone's recent survey on GenAI with Romain Gagliardi, CIO and CTO advisory leader in WaveStone Asia. We'll be exploring why Singapore leaders are the most optimistic about GenAI's potential, and we'll be looking at the unique risks and perceptions that we have here in country. We'll also be looking at the global sentiment about why all of us feel that we're lagging behind AI's true potential. Join us as we unpack these fascinating insights and the implications that AI has on all of us. Hey Romain, thanks for coming down to the British Chamber offices.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, pleasure. Very excited to be speaking about WaveStone's GenAI Global Survey. I read that you got 600 companies to fill in the survey, so you'll have to talk us how you managed to get them to do that. But let's actually talk about the content. There's some really interesting findings that we'll pick through, but why don't you start with just giving us an overview of what the survey was all about and maybe just some snippets in terms of interesting points.
Sure. So this global survey was launched, the idea of it was launched like 6-8 months ago in order to answer to a clear need of our customer globally, so not only in Europe, but in US and also in Asia, where we can see some requests to raise awareness around GenAI and data related. So they wanted to know more about what is the market, because everyone was afraid to be late and not launching the right initiative at the right moment with the right people. So what's much more of like one raising awareness to see if it's the right moment to like injecting budget and money in order to prepare a transformation roadmap, and also to see what could be like the use cases and threats to have in mind in order to launch any initiatives.
Yeah. Money, opportunity, threats. Yeah, it's just amplified through GenAI and the massive explosion. Yeah. Amazing. And one of the key things that you did was look very globally. So, I mentioned 600 companies, but the spread across the globe is huge as well, isn't it?
Exactly. So it was mostly the original footprint of WaveStone before the big Superior acquisition. So it was France market, Switzerland, UK, US, and Asia between Hong Kong and Singapore.
Yeah. And I suppose where we can get the conversation going is in terms of the differences you've seen between the different countries and the different cultures. So one of the really interesting things that stood out, obviously, we're in Singapore. So there was 76% of Singaporeans strongly agreed with the sentence, GenAI is a real game changer that will deeply disrupt the way we work. And that was the highest out of globally the positivity around that sentiment. So can you talk to us in terms of why that might be such a positive feeling coming from Singapore, and how that geographical, how those cultural differences make the impact to how we're viewing the application of GenAI?
Sure. So I think there are two angles of it. If we take a step back about this question and we look at it from a context standpoint, I do feel like in Asia, there are some industries that are in advance compared to Europe or to US. Mm-hmm. We can talk about the public sector regarding like e-government, digital identity, which is like one first example where you can see some use cases emerging right now in terms of how you can know better the consumer from a public sector standpoint. Mm-hmm. But also there is also the finance industry. So in the finance industry, you can look at, for instance, DBS, UOB as an example, where there are some use cases that have been put in place to ease the life of payment, for instance, align with what does the government. So pay now, pay later, for instance, is a good example. You don't have that in Europe, or not developed as much.
Right. Okay.
So I think there is sorry, I will do it again. The first difference comes from that part, and the second one I think is term of mindset. Okay, I think there is a lot of innovation center in Singapore. There's a lot of money for R&D too, and I think in France there is, or in Europe there is, in US there is, but here it's a smaller market.
Yeah.
So I think the ratio could be higher here compared to what we have in Europe or in the US markets.
Okay, so it comes down to Singapore being such a tech-heavy country already, and then that naturally leading itself on to being excited about the next wave of technology, which is being driven through AI. Is that
definitively?
Okay?
And you can see that there is a lot of money that is currently injecting in the market here in order to link that kind of initiative to everything related to CSR, so sustainability. How to do better from a life standpoint and from the environment standpoint with AI.
Yeah.
So governments are providing funds for CSR, for launching initiative for the market, and so AI can help on that too.
Yeah. Can we talk a bit further, because you mentioned in your last point about the public support, the public office support around GenAI, and there's been a number of exciting, IMDA just launched AI Verify, so there's been an exciting number of programs and initiatives that Singapore government are trying to push through. Can you talk to us about how that can benefit companies either here or looking to come over to Singapore?
So I think it will help on the different aspects. The first one is to raise skills to local manpower here in Singapore in order to understand better the technology behind it. Second aspect, I think it will help also investors to have the right advisory or opinion about any scale-up, startup working on AI, to understand what is behind. To remind me when I was working back in the US, where I worked a lot in California and Silicon Valley in order to help some private funds to invest into a startup in oncology, where they were claiming they were working on AI, etc. And the big risk that the fund was considering is it worth it? Is it the value there? Yeah. And sometimes on some startup I had to open, we have seen that it wasn't an AI, it was only an Excel with a regression.
Good macros.
Yeah. And so, you can say, yes, it does the job, but it's not AI.
Yeah.
So this one is the second topic where I can see. And the last one is to reduce the risk of launching an initiative internally to test and learn.
Yeah. Because that risk element, I mean, that's what you talk about in your survey as well, isn't it? And that's another area that differs massively geographically. Yeah. So it makes sense, we've already said Singaporeans mostly very excited about AI, and our feeling around the risk that's brought in is very low. And if you start comparing that places like the UK, very risk averse in terms of the potential impacts. So can you talk to a bit about what this study shows and how companies need to start thinking about the risk-reward balance when it comes to GenAI?
Yeah, I think I will answer on that particular question, but mixing it with the current level of risk awareness of the market in Singapore, because it's what the study has shown, that people here in Singapore does not consider as much as the other market regarding the risk that can bring GenAI, like a hallucination, for instance.
Yeah.
So first level of answer is, in Singapore, I'm quite new on the market, less than 2 years, so it's my personal opinion on what I have seen so far. We are in a perfect city, okay? So, and there is a collective work, people working together, etc., bringing the scamming part as low as possible. So I feel that in Singapore, people does not see the risk of GenAI as big as it should be, because they believe in the system. And we live in a global system, not in a closed system in Singapore. And so GenAI can bring, so what I mentioned, hallucination. Hallucination is when the model is not properly trained and bringing a wrong answer. That totally giving a bad bias on the way that you will use the GenAI features.
But still looking like it's factual, like references, everything, but it's completely made up. It's
looking legit. And so here, it could totally jeopardize your initiative and the result that you expect in your B case.
Yeah.
So here there is a clear topic on raising the awareness for the Singapore market. And what we see is like supporting the first POCs when we bring like one functional use case up to the POC and showcase, but at the same time raising the awareness. Okay, and then comparing. If now we are comparing the two markets are linked to what we have failed in the past, like cloud transformation in the European market, DevOps in 2010, 2015 when it was booming. So a lot of initiatives in Europe has failed a lot. And in terms of waves, you know, most often is like US, Europe, and then Asia. What we have seen in the last revolution in digital transformation. And so I feel that the difference can come from here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there is some opportunity to leverage in order to use big MNCs that have a global footprint in order to balance the opinion, balance the initiatives, and maybe also accelerate the Asian market. And what I have seen also that could be also a good opportunity is when we are talking about GenAI data transformation, I feel that there is some skills improvement on the local footprints. So it's a topic that I've been discussing last year in AT Cross HG. So it was a panel where we've been discussing how to boost the local footprint instead of using nearshore, because it's the future. So at some point when you do your make or buy strategy as a company, you need to master the skills in order to start offshoring.
Yeah.
And so here I think there is some like local initiative from the government, from education standpoint, where you can see universities, so Singapore Management University, National University of Singapore, that are launching like curriculum on GenAI to boost the workforce here regarding these topics.
Yeah. So we match that optimism or the sentiment in the general public with the skills, and then I completely agree with you. You know, the opportunity for Asia to take a clear lead on this is really there. Yeah, it's very exciting. But equally, we do need to not get carried away with ourselves. You know, my background is cybersecurity, and in terms of the amount of attacks that happen within Singapore, because we trust the frameworks and the infrastructure so much. So we do need to make sure we're not getting too ahead of ourselves and recognizing the negatives that can come with using GenAI so reliantly. So then one of the other things that came through on your study was that feeling that, yes, we're optimistic and we're not doing enough. So almost like globally, everyone felt like they were behind where their competitors are. So can you talk to us about why that's a strong feeling that's coming through so universally?
So I think it comes from three main root causes. The first one is that everyone is talking about GenAI. Everyone is talking that I want to launch it. So you can see in the big financial document of MNCs, GenAI or AI at least is part of one of their pillars of their strategy. So it creates like called the competition between companies. Say if I don't do it, the competition will do it. The second topic is linked to all startups now are saying that we are GenAI native, we are doing this, we are doing that, and so at some point say, okay, I compare to my legacy in my IS/IT system, so maybe I'm late. Last topic that are on the table, in my opinion, is linked to like failed initiative, because if you didn't raise properly awareness, if you use a bad startup or a bad solution, or if you didn't like scoped it properly in terms of time, value expected, etc., you cannot showcase to management. Management is not happy. Cut the budget because there are other priority, like a negative circle. Yeah,
you feel on the back foot then, and absolutely. Yeah.
So I think if you are mixing all these like situations, we have like this feeling, like market feeling, about it.
Yeah, yeah. So actually that's not too different from other big technologies that have come about. But maybe with GenAI just being so widely discussed, maybe that feeling is just compounded a bit further. So is there any advice in terms of to these companies, how to really kind of distill that want to do something with GenAI, but that kind of uncertainty on actually where to focus the mission on?
Okay, so for that part, in my opinion, launching like general awareness is a topic that needs to be further discussed, because general awareness, it's very theoretical, and sometimes like we have seen in the past that people attend but do not learn.
So you mean like lunch lectures, like sending out comms, those kind of,
it's too high level and not practical.
Yeah.
So I feel that the best advice that we can give to company is to launch some POCs on very precise use case. So it can be a cyber use case, it can be a business use case, it can be a IT for IT use case, but at least it's a use case, okay? Yeah. But this use case needs to be measurable, okay? And need to be scoped in a short time, so like 1 month, 6 weeks, in order to analyze the request, convert into what does that mean in terms of GenAI AI technology, make it happen from a design build standpoint, and showcase, then repeat.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's very similar to whatever technology or innovation we want to do, but here the matter is that we are like in a race where we have like big vendors that are sharing and bragging around about their ChatGPT and any solution similar to that provide like GenAI solution, and then what we need to do is to showcase it to management to ensure that we have enough budget the year after for each department to support the transformation and accelerate.
Yeah. And then how do you advise companies in terms of that other side of it, in terms of the risk for exposure of data or sensitive information? How do we balance that with the speed of wanting to see how we can actually improve efficiency?
Okay, so regarding cybersecurity wide and how to scope it, so I will like take a market insight first to answer. So as of now in Singapore, there is a lot of initiative launched by the government in order to stamp from a cybersecurity standpoint the solution in the market, like local solution. So I think this part is like a very important way to avoid basic data loss protection or like nurturing a GenAI model with data that are confidential.
Yeah.
So that can happen. We have some customer in other market that literally copy-paste a document in order to summarize it in ChatGPT, but the data was gone. So it's something that it's a basic risk. So in that matter, it's like the lab, so a digital lab spirit. So you create an environment that is a bit disconnected about your legacy or your core systems to avoid the risk. Then you extract the data that you need. You might, if it's confidential or if it's like critical, you might have to mash it or to anonymize it. And then you can use this sample data for the POC. Now, in terms of acceleration, because you cannot live in your digital lab by yourself, at some point you need at least to merge or to like transfer what you need to accelerate. Here it's a security by design process in order to include in the POC or in the scoping or in the build phase, like a DevSecOps process, to include the requirement from cybersecurity, DLP or cyber security software engineering into your initiatives.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, here, if we're wanting to do something with our companies, very much approach it from that agile perspective, have the different stakeholders as part of the conversation, security being a key voice within that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if I need to compare it in the 2010, 2015 booming in DevOps, it's very similar. What we wanted to do when it was DevOps, for instance, it's like we wanted to like having application monolithic architecture going to microservices to accelerate the time to market. And what we have done in that era is to bring developers, operations, architects, and cybersecurity guys a small team in order to transform one application in the beginning in this digital lab.
Yeah.
So same methodology, but not DevOps, AI.
Yeah, brilliant. Great. So is there any final pieces of wisdom to impart on us in terms of our GenAI journeys?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a very exciting moment for the Singapore and APAC market, where you can see there is also not the consumer per se consuming the GenAI services, but there is also like a clear acceleration on the infrastructure providers. So infrastructure providers are the ones that are giving computing as a service, supporting the booming request of GenAI data that are highly demanding in terms of computing. And so you can see that even the infrastructure provider are preparing themselves to support the journey of any consumer of GenAI. And so that part is very important because you have like the big vendors like Google, Microsoft, AWS that have GenAI computing as a service embedded into their legacy services. But now you have more and more niche players that are thinking to create like dedicated offer to support the market and have the opportunity to eat their piece of cake on the market, as much as the low stack in terms of infrastructure, such as NVIDIA, that are providing like the hardware.
If you can buy it.
But yeah, and based on the NVIDIA estimation and based on the specialized market estimation, I think we are talking about a 40 million USD opportunity to be a provider in infrastructure to do computing as a service for that market.
Yeah, brilliant. No, very exciting. No risks. No, it's all fun. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the British Chamber of Commerce Singapore's podcast channel. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple, Google, and other podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this episode, please spread the word by sharing it across your network. For more information about the Chamber and what we do, visit our website at www.britcham.org.sg and tune in next time for a brand new episode.